everyone, top 100 time, woohoo, yes, come on, this is what you've been waiting for, or at least I hope some of you have been waiting for, the chance for me to do my top 100. I do this every year now since when did I kickstart it? About 4 years ago? 3 or 4 years ago I started doing Top 100. It's basically to celebrate the anniversary of the broken Meeple. I've been doing it for 6 years now, ever since I started just writing like article blogs, then eventually went onto YouTube in a flat with horrible lighting, horrible equipment, and frankly horrible quality, and then slowly progressed into Season 2 where I moved house and it improved a bit, and then into Season 3 now where I'm hoping the quality is getting even better, and of course it's a learning game, but you know, it's going pretty well so far. So I already mentioned in the vlog essentially what I was going to do, and I put out some suggestions and people are giving me feedback. Thank you very much. Basically what's going to happen is I'm going to do batches of 20 all the way up to number 20. So 100 to 80 will be this video, then 80 to 60, well 100 to 81, you know what I mean, 80 to 61, 60 to 41, and we'll get to 20, and then I will do 2 batches of 10 for the top 20. Now in terms of content and what you're going to see, it's unlikely I will do photos for the batches of 20, but if I'm feeling nice or I've got some time on my hands, I will. The main thing you will see though is some lower thirds down in the sort of corner of the screen that will show you like a picture of the game box and some details like, you know, what number it is, and hopefully if I can fit the information in, a publisher, designer, and possibly even player count. Somebody did request that, so I'll see what I can do with some editing and trickery and with the MotionArray resources I have to hand. On top of that, I believe, obviously when I get to the top 20, I will put in pictures and take my time in that. I'm also not going to spend forever talking about every single game or something, because I need to get through these reasonably quickly, otherwise the video will drag on for ages. I don't think there's anything else to talk about now, just the obligatory, you know, big long award ceremony intro video. So we'll just get on with that now and...
Get on with it! Yes, get on with it!
No sense of glamour from some people.
Get on with it!
Okay, the top 100. I got all the statistics on my Google Drive, and believe me, I do pretty good effort here, alright? I go through on pubmeeple.com, who rank my entire... I rank a ton of games on pubmeeple.com. They got a brilliant ranking engine. Go check out their website. You know, all credit to them. I put in a lot of games in order to try and come up with a top 100. 2 years ago, let's see, 2 years ago I put in 153 games. Then last year I put in 163. This year I put in 182. 182 games. I rank 8 or higher this time, because last year and the year before there were 7s. This year there were only 7s included, were a few cherry-picked ones that I added. Other than that, all of these games had to be 8 or higher. That's just how much like more games have been added into my collection and my sort of like general likelihood. And by the way, if you want to take a quick screenshot, there you go. There you go, I've spoiled the list. But I've got stats for like favorite publishers, favorite designers. I will do that in the aftermath video. So, you know, I'll do one after I've done the whole top 100. But just as a kind of initial spoiler, 24 games have fallen off the list since last year. 23 new games have returned to the list. And in fact, actually, I'm not quite sure that should be 23. I got a feeling that should be 22 games that have joined the list. And 2 games have returned to the list after previously falling off. So that's your initial statistics. So without further ado,
get on with it!
All the games on this list I love, okay? So just because they're on 100 and not in number 20 doesn't mean I don't like the game and it's garbage, okay? But there are reasons for big drops, and this is a huge drop. Number 100 is Legendary, a Marvel deck building game, and this was 26. This has dropped considerably, and it's not necessarily because I don't like the game anymore. I still really like it, but 2 things are kind of getting in the way. Firstly, I play it mostly solo, and I still have yet to find a good, proper advanced solo mode that works majority of the time. You get a lot of instances where, you know, the solo mode kind of breaks because it's like physically impossible to complete the scenario. So what I tend to do is play two-handed, but even then the power creep is getting a little bit high lately, and some of these scenarios and bosses are just ridiculously hard, like way too hard. There's no way you can beat them. But, you know, like I said, I'm not an expert at the game either. The only other main thing is, well, it's in a giant box behind Scythe here. I wonder if I can show you that. Whoop, there we go. That big box has all my legendary stuff, okay? It is hard to get the Marvel stuff out of there for a game by myself. It takes a bit of time, takes a bit of effort, and that has an impact. So, 100 legendary Marvel deck building game. Hopefully, it can boost back up the rankings. Number 99 is Downforce from Restoration Games. This has only dropped 14 places, still love it a bit. Downforce is a great racing game where it was restored from an older game, and it's very dirt simple. You auction some cars off at the start, you have a special power for each, and then you race the 6 cards by playing cards and moving all the cars on your turn, trying to bottleneck other players, get in their way while sending your particular cars to the finish line, while also betting at various stages on other people's cars. Carry on until everyone's finished, done, find out who's got the most money. Easy. It is such a simple game, but Restoration Games did a fantastic job on this, and it essentially just, like, it shot up in my liking for a good racing game, because there's not many of them, and it won't be the last one that's on this list, but, you know, it always generates a lot of laughs, and I find myself teaching it to gateway gamers on a regular basis. The main thing I'm trying to do at the moment is I'm trying to replace the cars with little Mario Kart figures, and I don't have Bowser. I can get all of them except for Bowser, and he's super rare. It's so hard to get him. If anybody does not want those Mario Kart Monopoly-like cars and has a Bowser spare, please get in touch. I really could do with him because he will complete my set. Number 98 is the first return to the list. Yes, it is just pipped up back onto the list because I've played it a little bit more since. I still really like it, and I got really excited when the Kickstarter came out to give us like a really nice super plastic version, and that is Cleopatra and the Society of Architects. This is a great game. Where is it down here? I know it's around right behind me, the Days of Wonder version. I'm kickstarting the new version. I forget who's doing it. But, you know, it's going to be like loads of plastic, it's going to be painted, it's going to have new size cars, better artwork, it's going to be fantabulous. But it's a great, simple game. You're basically building up this palace and sphinxes and obelisks, you know, for Cleopatra, and you're doing it by collecting resource cards from a sort of column layout. There's rules for how you get specific cars, you have to take like the whole column. And you're basically just playing cards as resources to build the various pieces, but you effectively build the entire thing out of the box, and there's like plastic lust of pieces everywhere. But on top of that, it has one of my favourite mechanics ever in board games, which is a corruption mechanic. You can take these cards that give you more stuff, but in doing so, you have to take corruption. And the corruption is kept hidden inside your little pyramid thing in front of you, and there's chances for you to lose it by like praying to the gods and that. But at the end of the game, you all reveal how much corruption you've got in your pyramids, and whoever has the most auto loses. They're fed to the crocodiles, that's it. You don't even count up their points. And I love that because you're constantly sometimes there thinking like, ooh, you know, I feel like I'm good, but have you got more corruption than me? Am I slightly more corrupt than you? I don't know. Should I play the card? Should I play it safe? I don't know. And you could find that at the end of the game, like literally one corruption is in it, and it's just enough for you to win the game because your rival got fed to the crocodiles. Love that mechanic. It works in other games like Lords of Waterdeep and that. I want to see it more often. Really cool. So, 97 has dropped a bit, 16 places from 81. That is Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is a great heavy deduction game with a great narrative, but oh my god, does it make my head explode. You know, it takes a long time to get through these cases, longer than some other like recently acquired deduction style games, and it is just a brain burner. I never want to play this other than solo because it's just too much information. Although saying that, you know, maybe with 2 players it could help because then at least you could divide up a bit. But effectively you get given a case, you read practically a novel in the intro, and then you can pretty much do what you like. You have a map full of all these locations with numbers on them. You have a newspaper article full of half useful information and half rubbish, like the cricket scores. And you also have like a booklet of story paragraphs, and you're thinking, right, well, I feel like I should go to the crime scene. So where was that? That took place on Regent Street. I'm going to pick that number, and then I'll read the paragraph, and then you read a bit of story, and you almost, it's kind of like a mix of choose your own adventure, but also deduction. Some story paragraphs are brilliant. They lead, you know, that perfect. That's what you need to know. Some of them lead you astray. And when you feel you're ready, you answer a bunch of questions and see how you did. However, word of warning, do not try to beat Sherlock in this game. He basically, the way that the Sherlock character has the perfect scenario, it's basically that he's clairvoyant and stupidly lucky. It is physically impossible to match Sherlock in this game, so just ignore him. Just be glad that you got a decent score in the mystery. But oh my god, theme-wise, and you know, you want heavy theme and heavy deduction with like a stupid amount, like the most amount of information in any deduction game ever. The Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detectives are the ones for you, and each set covers you about like 10 cases, and I think there's 3, maybe even 4 now. You want the content, it's there. I still haven't even got through my set of 10 over there yet. Okay, the first new entry on the list. In fact, actually, let's try and spoil it a little bit. I've got 4 new entries on this set of 20 and 2 returns to the list. So we've already had the return to the list number 1. First new entry, Arkham Horror 3rd edition. Yeah, spoiler alert, Arkham Horror 2nd edition is no longer on my top 100. It's still in the box up there, but God knows if I'll ever get it out again. I just have no means to sell it. But the Arkham Horror 3rd edition gives me a new way to enjoy that cool, that theme of going around the city areas and closing up gates and finding little narrative encounters, a bit like, a certain other Arkham Horror games in that genre. But this one kind of gave you a bit more of, it's still long, and it's still a little bit on the, elongated side, but it's more streamlined in 2nd edition, but it still retains that interesting theme and horror feeling, as well as adding a little bit of extra tweaks here and there, like a narrative card arc. So as you go through the various scenarios, you might diverge paths slightly, or your objective might change. It's cool that they tell a more cohesive story than they used to in the past, where it was pretty much, here's your ancient one, and just go and explore stuff and see what happens. It was a little bit disjointed. This one makes the narrative a lot more cohesive, and therefore one that I really enjoy. Again, mostly solo, but with 2 or 3 players, it's actually not bad either. I just wouldn't want to play this with stupid amounts of players because it'll take forever. And 95 is another new entry from Sinister Fish Games. This is the new hotness for a lot of people in drafting terms, and it is Villagers. Villagers is sitting nicely with me. I enjoy its elegance, its smooth, streamlined gameplay. It fits nicely kind of in between Sushi Go and Seven Wonders for the kind of I need a light drafting game, but not stupidly light, but also not too much that a gateway gamer couldn't get it. In this one, you are simply collecting people, lots of different people with different jobs, like a miner, a blacksmith, lumberjack, that kind of thing, and you're putting them out in a tableau in front of you to gain points and money by effectively creating combos and production chains. Very easy to do. Handles up to 5 players pretty well, as long as you don't get the analysis paralysis player in there, it's pretty good. I have seen that. It's got a pretty effective solo mode. Don't really care about the mini expansions, they're a bit lame. But the game is just nice and smooth, and as I say, smooth and elegant and streamlined, works well for a drafting game. Doesn't take too long, about an hour tops. It fits in a nice little box, very nice and neat packaged, although if they release any expansions, it's going to be a problem. And it's easy to set up and easy to teach. I've been enjoying this one quite a lot, obviously. It's on my top 100. It's not like the second coming, as I know there was a lot of hype over this game, but for a Kickstarter title, it's nice to have a solid game that actually doesn't cost £1 million like some of these other Kickstarters are doing. This was dirt cheap, well produced. I love the coin chest so much that I bought another coin chest on top. It's a solid drafting game, Villagers. Number 94 has dropped 39 places, and it is it's, who doesn't know this game? I mean, who has not heard of Catan? Yes, I still like Catan, okay? Just because some other people think it's cool to hate on Catan does not mean that it's, suddenly the hated game now. I still love Catan. Granted, I'd rather play it with the expansions included, particularly Seafarers, but I will still happily play a normal, basic version of Catan. I still think it's great fun, very simple, gateway level, the base game is, maybe not when you add stuff in, but if somebody wants to play Catan, I will play it with Seafarers, Cities and Knights, Explorers, Traders and Barbarians, the works. I have a perfect setup, which is Seafarers, Fishermen, and is that actually? Yeah, Seafarers and the Fishermen from Traders and Barbarians. And that, oh yeah, and the Harbour Master from that same set. Put all of those together, and I think that creates my perfect version of Catan. I'd love to see a very souped up version of the base Catan, like with all the 3D tiles and that. And yes, I know one that exists, but I want to see one now, okay? I mean, they've just announced the 15th anniversary of Ticket to Ride. We already had the 10th. Could we not have what are we on now? 25th version of 25th anniversary of Catan? Could we not have a really souped up version of Catan or something? Although we are getting Starfarers of Catan at the end of this year. I'm looking forward to that because I've never tried that one. Should be pretty good. I'm actually going to sit a little bit further back as well because I think the elongated thing is a little bit exasperated. There we go. I think that's a little better. Okay, carrying on. We're on to 93, and that has dropped 31 places, but it's Founding Fathers. This one over here. Not going to get it out, but this here. Yeah, I know. Some weird Jolly Roger Euro game on my top 100. Why? And it's even a political theme. Luke, you don't like political themes. What's going on? Normally I don't. But this one carries that theme of like the back and forth voting of trying to get the is it a Declaration of Independence? I think it's one of those, you know, drafted. And each round, you know, a different element of the Declaration is getting, you know, debated on, and you're playing multi-use cards, and that's the thing that gets me, the multi-use cards. Each card you play can be a character that allows you to vote in a particular delegation, it can be a character for a special power, or it can be a particular faction for another track. You know, you're leveling up a couple of tracks, but with the voting and debate, you can basically have like the yay or the nay side, and you're putting your like characters there, you're trying to get it so that there are more yays or more no's. Sometimes you don't want that element of the Declaration to pass because you've got your own like agenda as to how you're going to score points in the end game. So you're trying to influence the vote, and it can go back and forth, back and forth. Your tactics can change dramatically as you draw those cards and think, ooh, wait a minute, if I go for that, I'll get more points that way, but now I need to swing the vote the other way. So you know what, you know, Massachusetts, I think you have changed your mind. You're now going to say yay. It creates a great theme of that whole, you know, mass crazy debate of people just going nuts trying to get this thing done. Could use a bit of a production upgrade. I'd love to see a new second edition of this, actually. It'd be pretty sweet. But the game itself, I just find good fun, and it's not that complicated of a game. So it's probably the only political game on my list. At least the only one that I call political, anyway. Although I have ordered Dimaka from Kickstarter, so that'll be interesting when that comes next year. But yeah, Founding Fathers, solid. Next up, we have 92 is down 38 places from 54. It is Sid Meier's Civilization: A New Dawn. The Sid Meier's Civ game is, you know, the Fantasy Flight one is really good. This one is the sort of more abstracted version of Civilization. It was a simple, well, not simple, it was still a reasonably heavy game, but it allowed you to get that sort of feeling of the Sid Meier's Civ games of attacking and exploiting and trading and that, but it did so with this really cool card mechanic where you effectively had these 5 cards in front of you to begin with. I think you could upgrade them as the game went on, but through technologies. And the idea was that if you waited for the card to get to the right-hand side of your tableau, it basically made it more powerful, or it gave you more options with it. But every time you did that, it then had to go back to the left, and then you either had to, if you wanted to use the action again, it was weaker. So it encourages you to do diverse actions, but of course, when you do the various actions and when's the best time to do it, it's all like really cool decision making. It's just a fun mechanic, as well as the fact that you do have your civilization with your own sort of special power, and you are doing the classic, right, do I want to conquest this game, or do I want to get a ton of money? Do I want to get to the very end of the technology track? How do I want to win? You know, it's definitely more abstracted than a lot of Civilization games, and that's what puts some people off it. But personally, it looks gorgeous, and I think that card mechanic is just golden. Such a cool game. Number 91, so the first 10 almost done, is a Vital Lacerda game. Well, you can tell I like Vital Lacerda games. In fact, I'm not sure what game. Oh yeah, I took that to a game night. That's why there's a space there. But this one is probably my... Yes, On Mars, obviously, I've never played. There are only 2 Vital Lacerda games I hate, okay? I hate CO2. I think that one was just boring and bland in the first... I have not played the second edition. I've only played the first edition, and yeah, that was just broke, particularly with 5 players. The other one I really hate is Escape Plan. I'm sorry, I know some people there really like Escape Plan. I personally think it's garbage. You motherfucker! It is boring. It is 3+ hours long for something that's a lighter Vital Lacerda game. The downtime is horrific with too many players. Sometimes you have turns where you have like about 2 actions to do and everyone else has 4. So you got to sit around and wait. And most of the turns is all you do is go, right, I'm going to move my guy past these inept caps to this casino and put a cube on this space. And then I'll go over here and put a cube on that space. And then I'll go and push my... hate that game. Escape Plan is garbage. Hey, rant over. Anyway, I'm talking about the games I like. What am I talking about here? Yes, it is Lisboa. Lisboa is my 4th, spoiler alert, favourite Lacerda game. Lisboa is this ridiculously heavy game where you're trying to build back up Lisboa after all the catastrophes it's had. I mean, seriously, it had flood, it had earthquakes, it had fire. Pretty much everything could go wrong with the city. It's based on actual historical events, and granted, I fall asleep trying to learn the history to this game, and unfortunately when you're teaching the game to new players, you kind of have to give them a 15-minute history lesson before you even get onto the rules. Otherwise, the theme is kind of lost. But it's definitely abstracted there. But it's nice that it's based on a proper event. But the idea is that you're playing these cards in your sort of recessed board, and you can put them above or below to trigger certain effects. And it's very much a tactical, it's very tactical while being strategic. I mean, you've got to think, right, I'm going to build up that particular color because then that will give me these bonuses, and I'm going to focus on this kind of thing for the whole game. But it's very tactical with those cards because you'll draw a new one every turn, and you'll think, well, that would get me that much influence now, but I could really use some money. Maybe I'll play this as a treasury item. But hang on, there's 3 nobles there. I'm going to go influence that noble because that will let me build this, get me this contract so I can build a nice state building. Oh, there's a lot in this game. Okay, I can't even explain it in the time I have. Like, trust me, check it out for yourself if you want some really involved game. It's so involved, in fact, that you effectively, if you imagine that you've got I was playing Lord of the Rings last night, but you've basically got a little booklet to yourself just for reference aids and like noting down what each of the bonus tiles and clergy tiles do. It's enough to put a lot of people off. It's a heavy game, but it's a quality game. Granted, I usually only play it with a select group of people who know the rules enough that we only have to skim through it again. Teaching this to brand new people, it's a bit of a chore, which is why it's struggling to go higher up the list. But when I do play it with that right group, it is good fun. Okay, we're breaking into the next 10 now, 90 to 81. And we have the second of the returning games of the list. And I'm actually quite surprised this is a returning game, actually. I thought it was on last year, but apparently no. Apparently it fell off or just ended up just off. And that is Isle of Skye from Chieftain to King. Like anyone cares about the tagline. But Isle of Skye is probably the only game by Alexander Pfister I like. Sorry, no, I'm sure he's a great guy, but his games really don't gel with me, I'm afraid. You know, did you do Great Western Trail? Yeah, garbage. But I didn't like Oh My Goods. You know, I thought that was pretty, well, the first edition was broken. The second edition was okay. Some people have lauded over Blackout. I'm not entirely certain why. The analysis paralysis and inducing moments in that game and the downtime are just ridiculous. Not to mention the first edition print of it looked god-awful. You know, the second edition looks a bit better, but still, I think literally the only people who should be liking it are the ones who play it 2-player, because at least you might be able to get it done in less than 3 hours then. Not a fan of it, but he does do Isle of Skye, and that is the game that I go, well done, really like this one. Stick to simpler games maybe. But this one, you are, basically, it's like an advanced Carcassonne. You are building your, like, sort of area with tiles, so it's a tile laying game, but you bid on the tiles with other players. And you're kind of in this conundrum where I really want that tile in my thing, but if I make it too cheap, you have to bid money on it, like put money on it. And it's a case of, well, if someone buys it, they'll give me a lot of money. That's useful, but I really want the tile. But then if I put too much money on it, I've got to pay that money to get the tile. Am I just like pricing myself out of the market here? But if I make it too cheap, someone's going to nick it. Great decisions that you're making every turn. There's different objectives to score with, and they activate at different times of the game, so timing is key. You sort of have to think, right, well, this phase I need to concentrate on that. Maybe I'll take a hit this phase and build up for a really big point score later when it comes back into effect. It's really cool. The main reason this is returned to the list is because I recently acquired Druids. Forget the Journeyman expansion, it is garbage. I know I'm saying that word a lot today, but you know, it just is. Journeyman expansion basically took this game and made it ridiculously complex and convoluted. It is not worth your time. But Druids, the new expansion, is. It doesn't really complicate the game. In fact, I teach it with the base game to new players. All it does is basically adds a new selection of tiles. So you've got even more ways to score points, new ways to get tiles, and like just adds more variety without being too complex. Great expansion, definitely get it. But it was enough to pip this back to all the way up to number 90. It really did elevate it back into my top 100. Number 89 has fallen 13 places. No big deal. It's, oh yeah, Lisboa. No, Lisboa was 91 last year as well, actually. That's stuck around at the same level. But Majesty for the Realm is my 89 by, I've got down Space Cowboys. I'm pretty certain Majesty for the Realm was not done by Space Cowboys. If I can see it here, I might have to correct myself. Yeah, it was done by Z-Man Games. It's right there. I don't know why I wrote that one down, but never mind. Majesty for the Realm is kind of, it's done by Marc-Andre. It's the same guy as Splendor. And, you know, it's in that sort of level of simplicity. But Majesty for the Realm is a great one where it uses that familiar mechanic of I need to choose a card, but if I want to take that card, I need to skip and pay a certain resource in order to skip it. We've seen it a lot of times, but it's quick and easy here. But what you're doing is you're building up a tableau of, residents in your village or town, essentially. Not quite like villagers, but, it's a different story. But each one goes to a specific location, and when you take the character, it triggers an immediate point scoring for you. But which characters you take kind of depend on what you need. I mean, if you build up a ton in one location, you'll get a really good bonus every time you add a new character there, but you're not being diverse and you won't get points for diversity. But there are majority bonuses for each location. There's even ways you can attack other villages, not in a really harmful way, but I mean, if you don't have some defensive characters up, some offensive knights might just kill off 1 or 2 characters that you have, unless you've got a witch or 2 that will allow you to heal. So there's ways to balance out the sort of take that element of here. But it's very simple, it looks gorgeous as all get out. It does need at least twice as much money in it though, because you're constantly changing up as you go through. But it's just one of those simple, elegant games that Marc-Andre seems to be pretty good at. I mean, let's face it, we all know what Splendor is, right? And this one just adds, it takes that familiar mechanic of the, all right, I need to choose a card, but I need to pay a knight every time I skip one. It's like, oh, do I have enough of them? But you're looking at what other players have got, you're thinking, oh, he's going to take that one if I'm not careful. Maybe I should take it, but then I need to get all my locations filled up, so I'm going to need a guardsman at some point. And you are going to take that knight and screw me over, aren't you? So I better take the guardsman. It's some very easy decision making, but it's 12 rounds and then the game ends. Nice and quick. 45 minutes, absolute tops, but people who know the game could get done even quicker. Great little one, Majesty for the Realm. Okay, now we're up to 88, which is Dixit. Dixit has actually climbed 5 places, surprisingly. I'm not sure why it's climbed. It's kind of remaining steady in this sort of area. Dixit is, where has that got to? I know Dixit's around here somewhere. Oh yes, over there. Dixit is a great party game. I've taught it to so many people. My family love it. New people have liked it. Girlfriends have liked it. I've showed it to loads of people where it's just a simple party game of looking at this weird and wonderful artwork in your hand that looks like, Tim Burton was high or something. And you put one down, face down, and face down and put a clue out. And it can be anything, a single word, preferably like a sentence, or even a poem or a song, a mime. Do whatever you like. But then everybody else has to look at their hand and go, which one of my cards fits that clue pretty well? And put it face down. They're all shuffled together, you lay them out face up, everybody comments as to how crazy the artwork is and how, what is the person smoking who gave you the clue. Everybody votes on which one they think it is, and you're trying to get the card that they picked. The person who gave the clue is trying to hope that somebody gets it, but not everybody. So it's a weird balancing act that they have to do. Preferably, they just want one person to get it and no one else. But as soon as they're revealed, it's, I think it's that one. And then they go, nope, it's actually that one. And the first thing you want to ask is, what are you smoking? Seriously, how is it that? And it just creates like some fun bantering between each other. It's simple. The artwork gets better and better and better with each of the expansions. I have lost track of how many cards there are. I don't think I even own them all. And that box is bursting at the seams with cards. It is ridiculous, but it is one of the best party games that has come out. It's just ticks the boxes as to something that works with all people, gamers, new gamers, families, kids, the lot. Great one, Dixit. My number 87 has dropped 9 places, and we were just talking about it a second ago. We had Majesty for the Realm, now we got Splendor. Splendor, yes, I still love this game, okay? Spoiler alert, Century Spice Road does not even make my top 100, probably not even my top 150. Century Spice Road is fine, New World is fine, but they just don't measure up to Majesty for the Realm or Splendor. I'm sorry, Splendor is just one of the simplest, most elegant, successful gateway games I have ever taught to people. There's a couple better, they will be further up the list, but wow. It's just so simple. Collect the jewels. 2 ways to collect the jewels. Get the jewels, spend them, buy the cards, get to 15 points. Nice and easy. The expansion, cities, was a little bit hit and miss, I must admit, but there are 2 elements of it I love to use in every game I play with gamers. But even if I just played the base set, with my family, my parents love this game, especially my mum. And trust me, trying to get my mum to understand any game is a chore in itself, bless her. Love you, mum. But you're not going to watch this video, what does it matter? But the elegance of Splendor, how nice it looks, those poker chips, I love just manipulating those with my hand. It just works. I can teach it in less than 5 minutes and we can have the game done in 30 minutes or less with people who don't take forever. Like I say, the absolute max it will take you is 45 minutes, and that's with a slow player. It is that quick. And despite the fact that you'll see those cards all over again, unless you use the expansion, even then you'll probably see all those all over again, it just works and I like to play it. It's a great gateway game. Splendor. Worthy of this list. Number 86 from Antoine Bolzer and Funforge, dropping 36 places from number 50. Yes, it has gone down, but it's mainly just because I haven't played it in a while, and that is Takedo. Yes, I know there are some people in the UK Facebook group who despise this game beyond all belief, which is fine. I have games I despise as well. But Takedo is just a very calming Zen-like game for me. You know, it's a simple premise. You are marching across this road in order to go to various spots in order to get, like, paint panoramic pictures, have a bath, you know, like, well, you know what I mean, spa bath, collect souvenirs, eat at sushi bars, that kind of thing. And it's just a very simple, elegant game of moving along this road, going to the places and getting points in one of many various ways. The expansion doubles your options, and it is like a must-have for this game. You know, that's why it still remains on this list, because playing the base game would get tiring after a while, but the expansion, so good. Crossroads, I'm talking about. Matsuri is okay, but you really want Crossroads. If you get a deluxe edition or the 5th anniversary version, even better. But it's a simple premise where on that road, the person at the back moves first. So you're constantly thinking, well, if I move slowly, I'll get to do more things, but then if I don't go fast enough at certain times, I'm going to be blocked out of the space I really want. And it's a very simple yet sometimes painful decision, especially when somebody like, don't you dare go there, don't you dare go there, ah! You know, I say it's a Zen calming game, it is. But you are going to get frustrated at some people blocking your space on the path, particularly when you have a lot of players. It's a solid game though, looks absolutely beautiful. Antoine Bolzer just knocks it out of the park with the way he does his games. It's a solid one at number 86. Okay, what have we got here? 5 more left. So 85 is a new entry. So there's only 2 more new entries on this batch of 20. And it is from AEG, from D. Thompson, and that is War Chest. War Chest has come down a little bit since the honeymoon period of when I first reviewed it, but it is still a fantastic abstract strategy game. Now you can play 2 or 4 player, it works at both those counts, although ideally play it with 2, just for quickness. But it's a bag building abstract game. It's like, okay, this is different. How does this work? Well, you have these different pieces, like the, you know, great big coin poker chip things, and each one represents a type of unit. Each unit has a special way it moves and attacks and does things. You are trying to control various spots on the board in order to win the game, but you get the chips on the board and do what you need with them by bag building. You draw 3 out of your bag every round, and you have to decide what you're going to do with those 3 chips. And then as you acquire more different units, you know, you put them in your bag, so you're trying to streamline your bag, but you're also trying to get enough good units in there and then get them on the table and move and do stuff. Each player will have different units from each other, and there's like, what, I think there's like 15 in the game or something, and each player's only going to have 4. There's, I forget how many total there is, but, you know, there's a good amount of them in there, and you're only going to use a few. And I hear on the grapevine there might be an expansion coming out to this, so even more is on the way. But it's just a really cool abstract. Having to sort of think, right, draw, what am I going to do with these 3 coins? And yeah, there's an element of luck involved by the way that you're bag building, but then so does every other bag building. You don't hear people complaining about Aldeons, do you? But, you know, it's, the component quality is fantastic. It's a very cool sort of I'm trying to think, it's area control, warish game. I mean, you are taking out each other's units and you are trying to block them off spaces, but your tactical use of how you use your special unit powers and how you streamline your bag makes this a very enjoyable 2-player abstract game. Number 84 has actually risen for some bizarre reason, up 12 places. A lot of that has been mainly just because, you know, when I have played it, I've remembered, oh yeah, this is a really good game. But also the expansion really upped it for me, and that is Nations. Nations is my preferred game to Through the Ages. Yeah, spoiler alert, Through the Ages didn't make this top 100, although I have warmed up to it a lot thanks to its phenomenal app. But Nations, which I believe is, yep, sitting right down there, big fat box, you can see. is essentially like a Through the Ages game, but it adds an element of worker placement because you have the different workers available to you, and each of the cards that you get as like different locations will give you more stuff the more workers you put on them. But you need workers on military cards, you need them on like, you know, resource generation cards, you need some culture stability in order to survive wars, and then there's the whole sort of tableau of cards that you can pick from each round, like, do I want that advisor? His special power is pretty good. Do I have enough military to go get a colony? I could do that. Do I need some more, you know, stone? Well, if I get that building, I can produce more stone if I've got the workers spare. And there's a lot to think about and a lot to do, but it's a bit easier to get into and certainly takes a lot less time than Through the Ages ever does, even though Nations does not have an app. That is kind of hurting it. But I love the expansion for the fact that it brought you so many player powers. You had about 5 in the base set and you used them and you kind of like, yeah, I've seen them, whatever. But the expansion added loads. You know, you want to be America, the Zulus, China, Greece, Rome, you name it, you can be them. And each one has a different board layout of like what cards are good for you, how many you can have, as well as a special power. It just adds so much diversity to the game and allows each player to be phenomenally different from each other. And that's something that Through the Ages lacks, because as much as you can take different cards, there's only so much differentiation you're gonna do, whereas Nations, there's a ton of it. You know, so I like it. My number 84, yes, there we go, from Lotte Pellet, I believe. I'm not sure if you pronounce it right. So 83 is the last new entry for this segment, and that is the dictionary definition of a hidden gem that I found at this year's UK Games Expo. Yes, as high as 83 already, and it is Small Islands. Yes, Small Islands is almost, it's coming close to killing off Carcassonne. So yeah, spoiler alert, Carcassonne didn't make the top 100. But Small Islands is again a tile laying game, much in that similar vein where you're building up islands, like a kind of archipelago type of formation. But the way it differs from Carcassonne is that each round you will cherry pick an objective and a scoring, an objective and a scoring phase. Well, scoring criteria. So you need to achieve a certain thing in order to score for this particular thing. You can cherry pick them each round, you can future plan, etc. But what is happening as the game goes on is that you have a small hand of tiles, you'll draw one, and then you'll place one out and build like this really pretty looking archipelago. But the way it has is that each of the islands and tiles have various symbols on them, and the scoring might require you to get, say, 2 lotus flowers on an island for you to score it. Then, if you have a house at the end of the round, and there's a spare spot to put it, you can put it on that island and score based on the other criteria you have. I know it's a bit hard to explain, it's easier when it's in person, but it looks gorgeous, it is super colourful, but it is super simple to play, and there's a lot of good tactical and strategic decision making. Like, do I want to put my houses out early whilst I've got the islands, or do I want them to build up a bit more and then maybe score for them more in later rounds? But then am I going to have enough scoring opportunities? Will I run out of houses? Am I going to get blocked out of an island because everybody else has taken the spaces? And the ship tile that you put out in order to end the round, you only get one of those. So do I want to end the round early in the game? Because later on I won't get the chance to end the round when I probably want to. There's a lot of interesting decisions in this game to make for something that is dirt simple, but it is such a good tile laying game and one I highly recommend to you. And certainly, like I said, it is coming this close to killing Carcassonne out of my collection. I kid you not. It is that good of a tile laying game. 83 Small Islands. Okay, 2 more. 82 from I&M Brand from R&R Games. This one has dropped 17 places, but it's still, you know, going strong. And that is Rajers of the Ganges over here. So this is from Hoopchin Games, and it's a solid Euro where you're using dice to do actions. And I like games that do that, but not all of them. There are some games that do that I don't like. But this one uses them in a fun way. You've got different worker placement spots on a big board where you can put the dice to do various things like sail up a river to get really good bonuses, to exchange for different dice. But the idea is that these dice are good quality, but they're also colored differently. So you can use them in order to get various tiles to put in your kind of like province area. So there's almost like a Carcassonne-esque bit to it. And you're trying to build up your province, get the roads to join up with the outside to get bonuses. It's a dry game at the end of the day. You know, the theme is kind of barely there. But what it does have is a very unique victory condition. Most of these Euros are like, get to 50 victory points and win. Yeah, the end. Or, let's play a few rounds and whoever has the most victory points wins. Doesn't happen here. Here it's more of a race. You have two tracks that go in opposite directions on the board. One for fame that goes twice as fast as the money track on the other side, but you use money more often. The idea is that the person who wins is the one who gets the two to meet at whatever point. You could have something like 100 money and 1 fame. If the two have met, that's good enough. Most of the time you'll end up somewhere in the middle as a balance, but you could just harvest a ton of fame, or you could harvest a ton of money. It's entirely up to you. And it's a very unique way of doing it. But having to manipulate the dice, you know, let's see, I've got a 3. If I use that over there, I can do that action. But if I use this in order to flip it to a 4, that'd be good. It's got that familiar thing, besides looking pretty gorgeous, if maybe a little busy on the board, and just doing those sort of things that I like in these kind of Euros where you do something and you get a little bonus. I like getting bonuses in games. Like, even if it's not necessarily enough to make you win it, it's making you feel like you're doing something productive rather than going, okay, you weren't able to get that thing, so smack in the face, you're going to lose. It's like, come on, I don't want that. I want to feel rewarded. But 82, Rajas of the Ganges. And finally, for this top 100 segment, number 81. It's come down 9 places. It's still pretty strong. For Matthew Dunstan and Tasty Minstrel Games is Pioneer Days. And a lot of you probably haven't even heard of this one. But honestly, if you get a chance to play it, do so. It's, you know, typical Western game. You're going across the Oregon Trail and you're trying to get the most points at the end. But how you're doing it is that you're picking up townsfolk along the way, each of which has a different scoring condition, but also a different ability it gives you. You're getting equipment like medicine supplies, food supplies, you know, extra trailers, so that you can, extra wagons, sorry, that you can carry more stuff. But the crux of the game is the dice. You draw dice out of a bag and roll them, and then you draft them. Drafting dice is always fun in pretty much every game that there is. I love drafting dice. But the cool thing is that the dice have like custom dice with different symbols, and you'll draft one to do a particular action. But you use that symbol in one of 3 ways, so it's kind of multi-use. Do I want to get that much money with it? Do I want to use it for a special ability? Or do I want to use it to get that particular townsfolk on this board? But the cool thing with this is that the last die that you leave there, whatever color it is, advances a track. And there's 4 of them for various disasters, famine, raids, storms, etc. And, you know, you could leave a black die behind, which means they all advance, or a specific color. So you've got something else that I really like in dice drafting games, where it's not just the dice you take, it's the one you leave behind that's also important. But as these disasters sort of level up at different rates, you have to be prepared for when it gets to the top of its track, resets, and then you all have to suffer the disaster. Storms will break apart your wagons, you know, famine kills off your cows, your herd, your raids, you know, steal your money, and I think there's disease, which I think kills off your townsfolk. That's why you're collecting things like wood and medicine and all that lot. But you have to decide, do I want to take the hit with this disaster, or do I want to go out of my way to mitigate the damage? Maybe I can survive with a couple of townsfolk dying off, because they're not going to get me that many points anyway, and at least while I'm not having to faff around trying to get medicine, I could do something else and maybe get those favour tokens. It's a solid, streamlined dice drafting game that just doesn't take too long to play unless you've got the AP players. You know, that's the only time I've had it go long. Like 90 minutes should be as long as it takes. But it's a solid game, and I think it's just flown under the radar for people. But Matthew Dunstan creates a lot of cool games. He's a great designer, and this is definitely one you ought to check out. Pioneer Days. So there you go. 100 to 81. Whew. There's a lot of good games there. Like I said, there were 4 new to the list, 2 returns. A lot of games in my last 100 to 80 fell off the list though, but we'll get to those in the Aftermath episode. So coming up in the next episode, I'll be doing my 80 to 61, and just for a teaser, I'm going to tell you now that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 new entries in the next lot, and none of them have returned the list because we've already done those 2, but yeah, there's some pretty good shakers there, and well, like I say, there's some awesome games as well. So what games do you think are in there? Well, you know, I'll leave you to find out. That's it for me on this video. I'll catch you on the next segment of the Top 100. Thanks for watching, and for now, even if you hate every single game I've mentioned, they're still only games. So take what I say about garbage and all that to heart. Don't take it to heart. No, wrong. That was wrong. No, don't take it to heart. You know, we all like different games. I've got games that I think are garbage, but then I've also got games I love here. You might be looking at my shelf going right now, you have that? That's horrible, you know, and that's the thing. We all like different games. So I better get on with maybe the next video, or just maybe stop rambling. So I'll see you next time. Take care and enjoy.